Assalamu alaikum. Hi, this is Mahira Khan, and we're here at a very special, at least to me, a very, very special new thing that we're launching with Mashion, which is called the Mashion podcast. बहुत अरसे से मैं ये सोच रही थी कि बहुत सारी ऐसी चीज़ें हैं जिस पे हम बात ओपनली नहीं करते, मेन स्ट्रीम में नहीं करते, पीपल लाइक मी हम लोग भी ओपनली बात नहीं करते. So and I myself was going through something, तो मैंने माहा से कहा कि I really want to do I want to do this theme where we talk about loss, और loss एक तरह की नहीं होती, बहुत तरह की होती है. तो फिर हमने सोचा कि पॉडकास्ट करते हैं, ऐसे लोगों को बुलाते हैं जिनका एक्सपीरियंस रहा है लॉस से, बड़े बड़े लॉस से. हालांकि मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि हर इंसान जिससे आप कभी ना कभी मिलेंगे उसका एक्सपीरियंस रहा होगा एक ना एक तरह के लॉस से. लेकिन वो लोग भी जो इसमें थेरेपी में महारत हासिल कर चुके हैं, जिनको जो डील करते हैं उन लोगों के साथ जो आते हैं अपना लॉस लेके, और किस तरह वो उनकी मदद करते हैं. ये बिल्कुल भी आसान काम नहीं होता, क्योंकि वो we're all human beings. We listen to stories, and somewhere or the other it affects us. It remains with us. So it's not an easy job. Our first episode of the podcast is going to be with Muzzafar Bukhari, who is a grief therapist. He also runs his own school. I am super excited to have him as my first guest and on the show. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here, actually.
I'm very excited to have this conversation with you. It's a topic very close to my heart, and thank you for doing this.
No, well, let's see. I hope people enjoy it, so that we can do more of these, because there's so many other things that we really, really don't, go out there and out on a limb and talk about.
Yes.
Tell me, Muzaffar, I was reading about you, and also जब हम पहले ढूंढ रहे थे लोग, तो हमें ऐसा लग रहा था कि हमें नहीं मिलेंगे, obviously मुझे ये पता था कि हमें थेरेपिस्ट मिल जाएंगे, साइकियाट्रिस्ट मिल जाएंगे, लेकिन ग्रीफ थेरेपिस्ट मिलना पता नहीं, मुझे ऐसा लग रहा था शायद लोग आके बात भी ना करें. And we feel we're very lucky to have you, and we found you. But you tell me how grief therapy found you.
How it founded me. So my first experience with grief started around 7 years ago when my mother passed away. And उस वक्त मैंने of course English dictionary में पढ़ा हुआ था कि grief का मतलब क्या है. It's like loss of something, and losing, it's painful, it's sad, and all those kind of things. But जब तक वो इंसान को खुद experience नहीं होता, they don't know what just hit them. One has to walk that path of grief. And when my mom passed away, तो मुझे कुछ समझ नहीं आ रहा था कि what's happening. Life was going on, moving on, but I was literally stuck
in it. Yeah.
And it felt extremely lonely. It felt very lonely to be able to explain what's happening, what's going on. Am I going crazy? There was a lot of shock. There was lots of emotions, but I couldn't even verbalize what those emotions were. And सब मुझे कहते जा रहे थे, in their well intentions, be strong and सब सही हो जाएगा, give it time. But उस वक्त time, the concept of time completely changed, right? So my what happened was, because I was so stuck, my blood pressure started staying relatively higher. So I went to a doctor. The doctor gave me a blood pressure medication. He said that, look, your mother had BP and now it's genetic, so you've gotten it as well.
And was this, sorry if I may ask, was it a sudden?
This was a sudden death. This was a sudden death, and she was 54, very healthy. So for me to make sense out of what had happened was
doubly hard.
It just wasn't making sense, So then what happened was, then I went to another doctor, and he checked my blood pressure. It was high again, and he started talking to me. He's like, what's happening? And I told him that, look, my mother has just died, and it's been 2 months, and I don't know what's happening, this, that. So he just kept talking, and he checked my blood pressure again after 15 minutes, and it was much lower.
Okay.
So he said, there's nothing physically wrong with you. You're dealing with grief, and you need to go see a therapist. I'm not going to put you on medication. And I was like, wow, because medication was the easier part. Goli pop kar li aur sab cheezein sahi ho jati hain, but it's not that easy. So that's what my journey started, working with a therapist. This is 2014 April.
Wow.
And you know, it's a process. Grief is a process which has to be processed. It has to be worked. Like, you know, you needed someone to I needed someone to help me with it, and that's how I went into the journey. I was seeking a therapist to help me out, and after 3 years, I had gained so much out of it because it opened so many new avenues for me.
It wasn't just that.
It just grief is just the starting point,
right,
which opens the heart.
right.
और जब दिल खुलता है तो फिर तो
तो
सब
फिर तो
चीजें चली जाती हैं.
it's like
You know?
but that's why people are scared, right? That's why I'm scared.
Yes.
I'm scared to talk to somebody
It's
because
very scary.
because I cannot allow my heart, my childhood, my life, my all the memories, whether good, whether bad or ugly, to open up, right? We don't like being vulnerable. Grief का एक बहुत मुझे एक interesting चीज़ लगती है, loss की.
Yeah.
कि grief होता तो universal है.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Everybody has experienced grief. Okay? Me, you, you know, that 2 people in this room, them, everybody.
Yeah.
But so grief is universal, but it's also so damn personal.
Yeah. Just like love.
It's just, absolutely. It's just like love.
Yeah.
So because it's universal, you feel कि आपको किसी का दुख, आप दुख दर्द बांट सकते हैं. लेकिन क्योंकि personal होता है, तो सबकी अपनी journey होती है.
Yeah.
You know, मैं आपको एक अपनी चीज़, खैर I'm bad, okay, with like opening up. Also because I constantly feel that मैं कुछ बोलूँगी और वो बड़ा हो जाएगा, वो कभी हेडलाइन में आएगा या कोई ट्रोल्स आएंगे, तो मेरी वो चीज़ जो मैंने एक्चुअली बोली है ताकि जो लोग इस वक्त देख रहे हैं वो सुन सकें, अंडरस्टैंड कर सकें, वो मुझ पे ही एक, you know, I feel like, oh,
I completely
you know what I
get
mean?
that. Yes.
But you know what? To hell with it for now. I was going through something recently with a family member of mine, and you know, I obviously wanted to talk to maybe a friend or whatever. And आपको different advice मिलती है, लेकिन कभी कभी आपको ये नहीं सुनना कि ये ठीक हो जाएगा. आपको कभी कभी ये नहीं सुनना कि time will heal this wound. आपको कभी कभी ये नहीं सुनना कि तुमने क्या तुम नमाज तो पढ़ रही हो ना, क्योंकि आप actually सिर्फ अपना दिल हल्का करें, and you want to vent and you just want to be able to grieve that time out. You tell me, when people come, what's the first biggest problem that you have? What's the first obstacle?
When people come to me seeking grief counseling, they're looking for a shortcut. There's a sense of urgency that they want to feel better as soon as possible. And what they're expecting is some advice or a solution. What should I do? And in a non-therapeutic setting, हम लोगों को बहुत शौक है एक दूसरे को advice देने का. We are driven by solutions, right? Because if you're going through something, I want to help you out.
बिल्कुल,
Not just for you, but for myself also. It makes me feel better about myself.
Yeah.
So it's saying कि हाँ सब ठीक हो जाएगा, time will resolve, हिम्मत रखो, be patient, नमाज पढ़ो, all those kind of things, right? And the difficulty is when someone comes to me and I say, let's explore what's going on, rather than me telling them, just do this, do that. And it's a very helpless. जब लोग usually grief counselor के पास आते हैं, they've reached a helpless point. They've talked to their friends, support network, this, that, and it hasn't worked out. You know, they don't come next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. उन्हें time लगा दिया होता है, and they're coming with a lot of fear. The fear is, what if it never gets better? What if I feel stuck in this emotion of the sadness and the anger and what I'm going through? What if I will I ever get my life back? Because that familiar life or that identity which they had when that person, let's say in case of a loss of a loved one, was still with them, they want to get reach that same position, the same what it was, right? But वो तो बहुत दूर हो गई है, तो it's a lot of you already covered so much since between the loss and when you're sitting next to me as on the जैसे कहते हैं the therapist couch, just holding them and giving them, providing them that space. You use the word vulnerable, and there is a lot of fear in being vulnerable.
Yeah.
And my
Big fear.
through my experience, to mujhe the most beautiful definition of vulnerability, which I have experienced, is to be able to carry your wound with grace.
Yeah. For sure.
And because wound to sabka hai, as you mentioned, we've all had our childhood wounds, and जब कोई grief की situation आती है जिसमें, for example, like a loss of a loved one, कि आपका पूरा bubble फटता है, and that's the time where either आपका दिल और सख्त हो सकता है कि दुनिया बहुत बुरी है, सब कुछ है, or it's a time to really open the heart as well, right? तो जो डिफ़िकल्टी वही होती है कि वो जो दिल सख्त होता है बिकॉज इतना डर लग रहा होता है, राइट? यू आर सो स्केर्ड, यू आर सो लोनली, यू आर सो हेल्पलेस. So the challenge is to accompany someone in their loneliness, in their helplessness, and sit with them and tell them that I see you, I know this is hard, and I hear you. And the beautiful thing is that's what humans need. They don't need advice, they don't need tactics, they don't need tools. That's what they need at that time. And there's something magical that happens over time, and then you look back and be like, wow.
I completely actually agree that I think you're right. Not to get emotional because but it's just you're right. I think when people are going through something, and everybody is in their own ways, everybody is, you really just need a human connect, right? But of course, it's much way beyond than that, because I feel that I don't know. I've made up this whole definition of the good and bad in us. I feel the good in us, the successful person in us, the happy person in us, is basically equal to all our resolved issues. This is my own. This is my own definition.
Yes,
you can tell me, shut up. You're not a therapist.
But I'm curious. Keep going.
Okay. And I've always felt that everything bad in us, and bad is such a not a nice word. Let's just say everything that prevents us from really living equals to all our unresolved issues. So we are just a bunch of resolved and unresolved issues. This is how I look at it, right? That's why हम लोग इतना psychology में क्या सबसे ज़्यादा हम focus करते हैं?
Happiness.
But even before that, what do we focus on the most? Childhood.
Childhood. Yes.
Childhood. Why? Because those are the memories. Correct me, please, if I'm wrong.
Because all our core beliefs are formed in childhood.
Bilkul.
So how we make sense of the world around us, how we see ourselves and our relationship with ourselves, and then based on our relationship with ourselves, we relate to people around us also.
Right.
It's all a manifestation of what happened in the childhood.
In the childhood, in those early years. और फिर वो trauma हम किस तरह आगे लेके जाते हैं. It's weird. Again, आप मुझे correct कीजिएगा. ये आपके साथ शायद होता होगा कि अजीब सी एक कोई स्मेल या कोई गाना या कोई आवाज़, या मुझे तो हमेशा जब मैं एक सीढ़ी जो गोल होती है तो मुझे एकदम से कुछ याद आता है, वो अपनी बचपन की चीज़ें याद आती हैं. So we have all these memories attached, right? And
our body remembers everything which has happened to us.
Everything.
It is part of our subconscious
muscle
mind.
memory,
Bilkul.
It's all stored in our blood and bones.
Yes.
So tell me, when someone comes to you, fine, you sit there, you are open to listening to them. What is the hardest part? Is it hard for them to, let's say, deal with the loss that happened just now?
Yeah.
Or is it hard for them to now go back? Because you see,
Yeah. I love this. Mahira, you said something along the lines of the unresolved issues, right? But there's a thing of opening up the Pandora's box, right? The fear of that. So people are like, हाँ बस मेरा ये issue है.
इधर तक ही हम
My mom
खोलेंगे
has
इसको.
died, and I need to feel better, right? And at that point, people have different coping mechanisms. And one thing is numbness. They don't feel anything, you know. So at that point, the body stops giving them any signals. There's complete numbness or a distraction like workaholism or any substance abuse or whatever they use to completely shut down that pain, that part of the brain which is telling them something needs to be worked at, you know. So I think the most courageous thing is for someone to just come and sit on the therapist chair to begin with, right? And be like, okay, I'm here. And then for a therapist, I wouldn't say the difficult thing, but one of the things which we have to work with is resistance. Because sirf aa jana does not mean कि सब सही हो जाएगा. It's a process and it depends on how willing you are and how ready you are to work on those unresolved issues bit by bit. इसका जो example होता है वो ये होता है कि sometimes you don't even know what those issues are. You came for something else and through exploration, it's like वो हमारी वो होती है delayering the onion. You keep delayering, you keep going. ये भी हुआ. I'm ready to look at this. No, I'm not ready to look at this. Let's park this. Let's explore this. कोई और issue हुआ तो उसका कहीं ना कहीं से वो connection वहाँ बना गया.
सही.
And that's the beauty of the human journey. You know, it's not like we see ourselves in the here and now, but we are also like a continuum of not just us, but our intergenerational.
Absolutely.
You know,
you're so right.
Sometimes I'm feeling something which might not belong to me, but to my dad or my mother.
Yes. That's the thing, and that's why it's so complicated, you know, and complex and like an onion, you know. But also, just like that, like you said, if you start, you know, taking it all out and just going there, which is hard. Which is very hard.
Yes.
Because, you know, लोग कहते हैं कि healing process. Oh, I'm healing. I'm going through this healing process. Healing process is the hardest process. Am I right or not?
And we are healing all our lives.
All our lives. Bilkul.
It doesn't stop. It's not like today I have healed.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
It doesn't. I have been in this process for almost 7 years and I'm still healing. Magar, one thing which I would also say about like the good and bad, right?
Yes.
Our brain is functioned to look into duality.
Okay.
This is good, this is bad, pleasant, unpleasant,
Right.
even sensations,
Right.
good smell,
Right.
bad smell,
Right.
how does it feel?
Right.
A lot of this exploration is happening in the grays, not in the black and white, you know, so we're keeping the judgment away.
Yes.
Because
okay, so good. Yeah.
एक तो therapist का जो हमारी training ये होती है कि you know we're not supposed to judge, we're an empty vessel, right? But जो client who's working on those issues उसकी खुद की इतनी judgment होती है. I hate myself for feeling this. This is so unpleasant. I don't want to look at that. This is the part of myself which I hate. And उस parts को love देना, that unconditional love, is the job, is the work.
So you're saying that somewhere you have to sort of convince, with love, with the non-judgment, you have to convince someone to also forgive themselves, no? Because we're unforgiving. We're unforgiving with ourselves, right?
Before forgiving anyone else,
You've got to
it's the greatest gift and the biggest responsibility we have towards ourselves.
कि अपने आप को आप माफ
बिल्कुल
माफ करेंगे तो फिर आप आगे बढ़ेंगे, you know.
And you know, maafi is also a process. It's not like हाँ आज मैंने माफ कर दिया. मैं कभी-कभी खुद you know जब अपनी थेरेपी में भी होता हूँ and I said ये तो मैंने 2 साल पहले माफ कर दिया था, आज गुस्सा क्यों चढ़ रहा है मुझे इसके ऊपर. It's not a progression. इस तरह नहीं होती कि 2 साल पहले आपने एक चीज़ resolve करी थी और वो resolve हो जाएगी. That will come back, but it will give you some other information this time.
Oh.
And that's what this information is, what keeps us growing as humans. And we keep letting go and shedding the things and the beliefs which are no longer serving us.
Right.
And regrowing and growing and regrowing. And that's the whole process.
That is a very, 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 that's going to stay with me for life. I think that what you said, that, you know, we have to let go of the beliefs that are no longer servicing us or giving us serving us, any sort of good or providing us with anything that, you know, helps us with the now. Now, we were talking about judgment, and I think that's the biggest thing. in South Asian countries, even in, I mean, I would say in the first world countries, यार, I mean, अब therapy एक, अब बात होती है. मुझे याद है कि बहुत साल पहले, I would say, Aslan is 11, so I'm talking 9 years ago. Okay, so 8 years ago, when I was, getting separated and getting divorced. So friends of mine, jo much older than me, this couple, they kept saying, they said, Mahira, come on, you need to go for therapy. Please, before you make a decision, or even while you're making a decision, this is not going to be good for you. This is not going to be, you have to, कहते रहे. Counselor, just go see a therapist. Acha, go together to see a therapist. And it didn't click, okay? Anyway, I drowned myself in work.
Coping mechanism. My child, my mother, father, this, that, work. But I am a workaholic, right? And used to say it proudly, I can't live without work. I can't live with. Of course you can't live without work, because if work wasn't there, you'd collapse, right? Yeah. Or you'd actually deal with what was happening. Never dealt with it. And in the last few years, all of what I had said, no, I'm fine, everything just came out. Yeah. In different ways. Because in essence, I had not dealt with that unfinished business.
Yes, I had not actually dealt with it, I had let it be, brushed it under the carpet. Now, sometimes I think, क्या मुझे डर लगा कि मैं थेरेपिस्ट के पास जाऊंगी और वो मुझे जज करेगी, और उस वक्त तो मैं एक वीजे थी, समझ ले, या और मतलब I had just gotten into acting. क्या मुझे ये लगा था कि लोग क्या कहेंगे, suddenly मैं बोलूँगी कि I'm going to go for therapy or whatever. Yeah. I think judgment is a huge part of why people do not seek help, why people do not talk about what they're going through also. Bilkul. So tell me about that, because I'm sure you deal with that all the time, कि कोई आ रहा है और कह रहा है कि आप नहीं जाएं और आप ये.
Even in the waiting area, people don't want to be seen. So they always would tell me that, once your previous client leaves, message me and this and that. And in the beginning, I felt that level of discomfort too. Okay, I don't want to be seen in the therapist clinic, and log kya kahenge, and something is wrong with you. It's a sign of weakness. All these things, right? Because again, this is a bit of a cultural thing also. I have so many clients who come to me and their parents don't even know they're coming for therapy, because they would be very heartbroken that as if we have done something wrong. Exactly. So the work is that once that therapist is able to provide them with that space of non-judgment, and again, वो आहिस्ता एक process, पहले session में नहीं होगा कि I'm not judging you. It's a process which takes time, and then judgment starts taking a back seat. But that also depends on your core beliefs, right? Ke how strongly ingrained are those things, ke how important are these log?
But log, हमारी society में
बहुत ज़्यादा. And that is why, Mahira, I feel that kudos to celebrities like yourself to start talking about it, because हमारी society के belief पे तो celebrities and यही सभी लोगों से बनते हैं, right?
It is the trend makers that talk about.
So now we are seeing in the West, things have started, all these stars and all coming and talking about mental health and how therapy has helped them, and dealing with depression and grief and loss. So there has been a change.
Oh, definitely. Even here, by the way.
Yes.
Even here.
Bilkul.
I mean, hum log, because I know I'm a part of so many of these, so many of these NGOs, or even talks like this where we go and we talk about mental health. Who am I to talk about mental health? Just someone who has gone through something. So I have a personal experience. But also, I have a voice. So, and mujhe, honestly, I don't know if you know this girl, Mahira Khan, who's one of our top football players.
Yes,
she's a young
girl.
What a... Yeah. And I remember मैं उसके साथ एक panel पे थी, और उसने जिस तरह से mental health के बारे में बात की, I hugged her, I was like, I wish I had this kind of strength. This kind of strength at your age.
And that is why a therapist setting is that thing,
ideal,
which helps you to be not worrying about what log will say. right? Because लोगों ने कभी किसी की help, I'm not saying from a bad intention perspective, it's just that it's collective trauma. A lot of time it's people talking about is collective trauma speaking.
Absolutely. Can you explain collective trauma a little bit?
So, for example, if something bad happened to me, as a child, and it happened to 10 other people and something, so un puri society ka core belief ban gaya, the world is an unsafe place, men are bad, the whole idea of ladkiyon ko kaam karna chahiye, nahi karna chahiye, ye hona chahiye, all the identity issues which we have had, it becomes part of a script.
Right.
Then you will say this to our daughters and sons
बिल्कुल.
as well. So the toxic masculinity जो इतना बड़ा एक issue आजकल हुआ हुआ है with all this rape culture happening, what is it that happening? That means that this is part of a collective trauma.
Absolutely.
Showing this is a manifestation of that trauma, कि how this is wrong, this is bad, putting everything, not talking about it, taboo topics, ये topics, and then it bursts out like rape. पहले रिपोर्टिंग नहीं करना, ये नहीं करना. So this is all. पहले भी सब कुछ हो रहा था. Now because of the social media and people like yourself talking more about it, Mahira, ये सब चीज़ें सामने आ रही हैं.
और आप बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं और ये बहुत ज़रूरी पॉइंट है कि जब हम क्योंकि आपने रेप की बात की, एक एग्जांपल लेते हैं. जब हम रेप की बात करते हैं, आप मुझे बताएं कि एटलीस्ट मेरा ये मानना है, शायद मैं गलत हूँ, मेरी अपनी एक ओपिनियन है कि हम किसी को टांग के क्या करेंगे, क्योंकि हम एग्जाम्पल सेट कर रहे हैं ना. जैसे मैं भी यही कहती थी, मैं तो पागल हो जाती थी छोटे पे. सेट एन एग्जाम्पल, सेट अ गॉडडैम एग्जाम्पल. ओके, आई थिंक माई थिंग इज, आपने बड़े एग्जाम्पल सेट किए, आपने बड़े लोगों को टांगा होगा, उससे क्या हुआ? कुछ नहीं हुआ. क्यों नहीं हुआ? क्योंकि आप रूट
creating fear is never the solution.
It's never the solution. In fact, you are just saying, you were violent, I'll be violent.
Yes.
You kill, I'll kill.
Yes.
But you're actually not going to the root cause of it.
Yeah.
It is not an act of pleasure. That we know.
The root cause requires a lot of courage, difficult conversations, forgiveness.
Conversations.
बिल्कुल.
Real conversations. Difficult conversations. But anyway, that's for another.
Yes.
That's for another time,
Yes.
another day, or whatever. I was reading, and this is a very, this is something that you read in psychology. You read about grief. Okay, there are stages of grief.
Yes.
There's a patent thing that they talk about, right? They say that it's denial. Then there is anger.
Bilkul, you're right.
Right.
Go on.
So there's denial and anger, and then there's bargaining, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
So I would, and I know कि not everybody goes through it in that order.
Yes, bilkul.
And there are people who skip a few in between as well.
The duration, frequency, intensity of each stage could be different from different people, and that's what makes it, the mix of it makes it such a unique experience.
Right. So take me through it. Take the people who are listening through.
Yeah. So the reason why we have come up with different models on understanding grief is because grief is such a common humanity experience, and when people don't know what's happening, this model kind of gives us some sense of what's happening, some semblance of sanity, let me put it that way, right? And as you said, this is not like a linear process, ke pehle ye hoga, phir ye hoga, phir ye hoga, magar there are these 5 stages, and I can walk you through what it means, right? So the first stage which they talk about is denial and shock. How this is not true. Like, for example, when my mom passed away, I thought कि मुझे गलत सुनाई दिया. My senses just shut down, and I said, वो अभी आ रही हैं वापस, अभी आ रही हैं. It's like completely the brain shuts down, because otherwise the pain is so overwhelming, you can't survive. So you go into shock mode. Right? So your brain protects you by going in shock mode. Then once the next thing could be anger. A lot of anger comes up. Anger is a masking effect, right? Because there is so much sadness, you haven't reached your sadness yet. You're very angry. You're angry at the world. You're angry at
the universe, at
God. And even like my mother, she could have, like taken care of herself better, or I could have done this, and
so you start getting angry at yourself.
There's a lot of anger which comes. Anger can show up in funny situations as well. Like, I'll share that at my mom's funeral. There was a 90. My mom was 54 when she passed away, and there was my friend's Nani, who was in her 90s. She showed up at the funeral, and I was like, this is so unfair. I mean, that's how silly anger could be.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
anger
No,
is
no.
an emotion. You have to
Bilkul,
respect
bilkul.
that, and there is a certain role anger is playing in your grief journey.
Right.
Then the other one is bargaining. When you start, your mind starts like playing tricks on you in terms of, what if I've done this? What if maybe we could have taken her to another hospital or another doctor, or like got this done or that done. So it's like bargaining. Ye kyun hua? It's just another way of coping.
It's another way of your brain understand. This is all a process of
Yes,
your brain
yes.
actually protecting.
Till you reach
you reach-
sadness,
Right.
which is at the core.
Yeah.
And that's very difficult. That's a stage where it's almost like feeling of depression, the symptoms of depression, feeling isolated, withdrawn, the things which used to excite you are no longer exciting you. And then उसके अंदर काफ़ी रहना पड़ता है थोड़ा सा, and that is something where a lot of healing is happening when dealing with sadness. But it's a very fear-driving process as well, because you think, what if I'm stuck here forever?
Yeah.
It's so unpleasant.
It's such a bad feeling.
And you're living in two parallel worlds, because you're working also, you're doing all your
नहीं, आपकी
duties.
बाहर की दुनिया जो है वो
अंदर
हर
आपके
चीज़-
अंदर ये सब
और
चल
ये
रहा
चल
होता है,
रहा है,
right?
बिल्कुल.
And then the last is acceptance. And acceptance does not mean that I'm happy again. Acceptance does mean सब चीज़ें सही हो गई हैं. Acceptance means that I've learned to live with the loss. And a lot of people think move on, but moving on is not. I think ये एक तरह का गलत motivation है of getting over grief. I was reading somewhere, I think instead of moving on, you move forward with grief. So you lean
Right.
into it and you
You
learn to
move
live
with
with
it.
it.
You
So
move
for
with
example,
it.
I'm still grieving the loss of my mom, but
Yeah.
I have, in the process and in the process of acceptance, my heart feels more open to take other emotions of joy and hope and gratitude and other human, the
best of the emotions,
the
yeah.
emotions, right?
Yeah.
But yes, there is still grief.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that acceptance हो गया तो grief खत्म हो गया.
Right.
You
and
just
and
made
you see,
space for it.
we read, at least whatever I've read, again, I'm just, I'm just going to throw you.
You already know a lot.
I don't know, but I keep, I'll throw you things that I've read or I have felt or experienced. Like you said, that we should move on with it, not move on.
Move forward.
Move forward with it, right? With it, along with it.
Yes.
Now, what I recently have been reading a lot is this idea of the now, the present, right? And the stress that we give to being in the present, and how it's truly the only time you have, right?
Yeah.
This is it.
बिल्कुल.
This, in its essence, is all we know of life, all we should know of life, because this is truly what we are living, right, in this moment. What I keep feeling is that if we can somehow honor the past by, like you said, by dealing with it, by resolving whatever we are left with it, the residue of the traumas or whatever, whether we come to a point from the denial to the acceptance, once you honor it, in essence, you'll be honoring the present.
Yes.
And because you honor the present, you honor the future automatically, in my eyes, right? I keep thinking about this, that if I deal with what happened and whatever has happened, whatever there may be, whatever issues, I will make today better. I will make it better.
It's honoring the gift of life.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, right.
And you're right. Like now, what's happening in the now, and that means pleasant, unpleasant.
Yeah.
तो जो भी चीज़ आ रही है, what's happening, to be able to recognize it, investigate. There's a thing called RAIN: recognize, acknowledge, investigate, and nurture. तो जो mindfulness के जो experts हैं वो now में क्या कहते हैं कि अगर now में ठीक है, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling sad, what do I do? So the acronym है RAIN: recognize it, acknowledge it, investigate. What is it telling me? What is this sadness telling me? Sometimes I'm feeling angry, and then maybe it wasn't anger, it was, मैंने थोड़ा investigate किया, it was actually sadness, right? and then nurture that sadness, give
And
love,
nurture it.
give love to that sadness. I'm sorry, I know this is difficult, and to be able to recognize that, and this rain thing, and it's a practice. You keep practicing. Oh, okay, it's sadness again. It's anger visiting again, and giving yourself that space to feel what you're feeling. That's a great gift you can do, and that's the gift you can give in the now. Future will take care of itself.
Future will take care of itself, yeah. You know, sometimes I'm going to do my own therapy. But just...
It's an effective way as well.
Yeah.
Go on.
You know, there are times where, out of all the, films, dramas we do, and by the way, I do not work, like I see all these other people working, I'm like, how do you do it? Because I get invested, and then, it takes me a little bit of time, and of course, I have my own personal commitments, like my child or whatever. But it's so weird. And I've come to this conclusion on my own. That the characters that I've played, specifically a few of them, I used to feel कि मैं ये घर नहीं लेके जा रही. Of course, मैं तो character की है, मैं तो बस ये, And you will not believe sometimes what happens with me. Sometimes I used to just bawl and cry, and the kind of feelings and thoughts I had, sometimes I used to feel these are not mine, and I came to a conclusion that I'm actually also carrying all these damn characters' pain with me.
You embody them.
Yeah, I am embodying them, and as much as these tears are not real, but they are. They are droplets coming out of my eyes.
They're your tears.
They're my tears.
Yeah.
And yes, I may not be, Khirid or Sabah or, whoever, but I am. So, and it's so, I can't explain it to you.
So a question you could ask yourself
Yes.
at that time, Mahira, is that if these tears had a voice, what would they say? That's the moment of investigation.
Right, okay.
If my
Okay,
tears had a voice, what would they tell me?
I love this. I'm going to write this down somewhere. This is beautiful. If my tears had a voice, what would they say? Yeah.
And then give love to it. Whatever they say, just accept them and
Accept
give
it.
love yourself. And I think as humans, that's the best gift we can give to ourselves. And that's actually saying yes to life.
Right. That's beautiful. I don't know if you want to talk about it, but today is your mom's birthday. And I hope whoever's listening can, have a little prayer and a shout out to your mom up in the heavens.
That means a lot. Thank you. Thank
Send her a flying kiss and a hug up there.
It gives me goosebumps.
Yeah. I do that. There are times where I'll be missing somebody who I've lost, and just look up into the sky, and I give like a, I don't know why. I think that like somehow this flying kiss will fly up to them.
I believe so too.
Right?
It does.
Yeah.
There is a connection, and whatever helps to reconnect, establishing that connection.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me, I think एक बहुत बड़ा जो इशू है, मैंने अपनी फैमिली में देखा है, पढ़े लिखे लोग जो बहुत लिबरल लोग जो ये बातों को ऊपरी समझते हैं, मुझे एटलीस्ट लगता है कि वो समझते हैं, लेकिन जब बात आती है, जब उनका कोई करीबी रिश्तेदार जिसके साथ कुछ हुआ है, चाहे वो किसी लॉस से गुजरा है, चाहे वो एक ब्रेकअप ही क्यों ना हो, या फाइनेंशियल लॉस जो कि एक बहुत बड़ी चीज़ हमने देखी है, होती है, या शादी टूटी हो, या बच्चा या माँ बाप का लॉस, वट एवर इट मे बी, या फिर दैट पर्सन इज गोइंग थ्रू सम मेंटल इलनेस, मैंने ये नोटिस किया है कि लोगों का उनसे बात करने का तरीका जो उनको लगता है कि सही है, वो एक्चुअली उसको ज़्यादा तकलीफ़ पहुंचाता है. वो उस इलनेस को या व्हाट दैट पर्सन इज़ गोइंग थ्रू उसको उस पे मतलब आई डोंट नो, आई थिंक इट फर्दर causes problem more than anything. So I would like to know from you and for myself as well, and जो इस वक्त लोग सुन रहे हैं, देख रहे हैं कि What are what are certain things, what are the etiquettes to talk to people who are going through something? Grief, loss, depression, whatever it may be.
I think there's a lot of discomfort when it comes to see someone else going through something, because it might remind us of our own discomfort, which we have shoved aside and
So,
don't
like
want
you
to.
said, collective trauma.
Bilkul. So that's very uncomfortable for us to look at someone else's discomfort. So instead of helping with that, staying with that discomfort, which is what the need of the hour is at that time, we want to resolve, we want to give solution, we want to give judgments out. ये करोगे तो सही होगा, ये करोगे तो सही नहीं होगा. And the way we internally see ourselves and speak to ourselves, it comes out at that time. And a lot of times what I've noticed is that compassion is missing. That key ingredient of that time is compassion, and this huge sense of urgency. जल्दी ठीक हो जाओ. There's something wrong and it needs to be fixed.
Because obviously, अगर आप मेरे भाई हैं, ठीक है, या मेरे father हैं, और you're going through something, right? तो मेरा दिल तो यही चाहेगा कि आप फौरन के फौरन ठीक हो जाएं, right?
Yes.
अगर आप मेरे दोस्त हैं और मुझे आपसे और ज़्यादा बात करनी पड़ रही है whatever, तो क्योंकि आपका ट्रॉमा मेरा ट्रॉमा भी रिफ्लेक्ट कर रहा है, तो मैं चाहती हूँ कि यार मैं तो इससे ये जल्दी ठीक हो ताकि मेरे अंदर की जो चीजें वो बाहर
Exactly. So sometimes it's enmeshed and it doesn't become about the person who's grieving, it becomes about the other person. And that is why the person who is grieving would start feeling so lost, because अपने दोस्तों में भी अपने आप को authentic feel नहीं करता. वो बोलता है कि, like for example, like when people are going through a loss, they want to talk a lot about it.
Yes.
And the other person is like, हाँ 6 महीने हो गए अभी तक कोई बात कर रहे हो.
बिल्कुल.
Or their own relationship to crying, don't cry.
Yes.
Or cry it out, मगर or be strong. Especially if you're a guy, तो फिर तो be strong की definition ही ये है कि बस आप mask पहन के बिल्कुल normal act करें, right?
Which is so sad, because हम बहुत बातें करते हैं, and of course लड़कियों के साथ ये मगर हम अपने मर्दों को, अपने लड़कों को emotions दिखाने का मौका ही नहीं देते.
Emotional literacy is something which is not a priority at all. And there is a lot of guilt. हमारी society के अंदर guilt भी बहुत होता है. Think about your father, think about your child. उनके लिए be strong for them. And we thinking that, कि उस pressure दे के guilt करके it's an incentivize for the person to feel better. अगर इतना ही आसान होता feel better होना और इतना ही आसान होता be strong होना, then तो आधी से ज़्यादा दुनिया बिल्कुल trauma free होती.
बिल्कुल. अगर इतना ही आसान होता कि you move on.
Yes.
Or you forget about it.
Yes.
Or time.
Yes.
I remember when my dada passed away, that was my first death that hillowed, completely.
Yeah.
I didn't deal with it well. I was his pet and it was sudden and I just did not deal with it well. So when people used to say that time will heal, you'll see, time, I used to get angry. I said, I swear, I used to say, you give me a time. If you're telling me that time will heal this wound, then you tell me how much time, so that I know, okay, it's 1 year, 2 years. And it was such an illogical thing that I was saying, give me. But I also at that time felt, you're giving me an illogical sort of thing, कि वक्त. Of course वक्त के साथ बेहतर होती हैं चीज़ें, बिल्कुल होती हैं, बट वो इसलिए होती हैं क्योंकि आपकी बॉडी, अगेन आपका ब्रेन, आपका माइंड का मैकेनिज्म ऐसा है कि वो बुरी चीज़ें वेग मेमोरीज में चलती जाती हैं, वरना तो.
But Mahira, it shows up again and again if it's not processed.
If it's not processed.
So it shows up in different areas of life. It shows up as a parent.
It shows. It
that
does.
anxiety. Like anxiety, that feeling of unrest, something is not right, or that feeling of emptiness, which we try to fill that void through work or things which gives us pleasure. Those momentarily pleasures.
Yeah, which are pleasures, not joy.
To avoid the unpleasantness, which comes in the now. So it keeps showing up. मगर इसके अंदर एक और चीज़ मैंने देखी है कि just be honest. Like, I don't know what to say, but I'm here for you. I think silence can be so powerful in that situation, and I've experienced it myself. And I did not know this before I've dealt with myself. So I'll give
Yes.
that credit to people who have not gone through that grief.
Right.
When my mother passed away, the people will come and talk to me and they will try to make me feel better. But then when I was talking to someone who has dealt with it, and sometimes I was not talking, but they were just silent and be like, I know this is so hard.
Yeah. That's it.
And we just
That's
sat.
it.
That
That's all. Sometimes you
That's
know, my
all.
friend just went through her father.
Yeah.
Very, very recently, my friend from school lost her father to COVID. And she had put up this status, and she even told me, but she put up this status saying that, you know, when people say, how are you doing? What's going on? What do they expect me to say? And it was an angry, status that she had
Completely
put up. But she said, you know, all you can say, she actually, it was a thing that she wrote, ki, look, when there are people around you grieving or there's someone grieving, the most you can do is be there, you know, just, or if you really want to message them and say something, say that, you know, I don't know what to say.
I don't know what to say, but I'm thinking about
Thinking
you.
of
And
you.
I'm
Praying for you.
I hear you. I see your
I
pain.
see
and
your
I
pain.
want to be there
Yes,
for you.
she said those are the best kind of messages to me, and it was so, and literally, obviously she doesn't know this, but I quickly went back and I was like, what did I write? And thankfully, I only wrote that, you know, thinking of you, because I really didn't have anything to say. But yeah, so
I mean,
there
in our
are-
culture, there's a script, right? Rest in peace, may Allah grant justice this, and
May Allah forgive his sins, and
That's
you know
it.
what. So tell me a few things that जो इस वक्त लोग सुन रहे हैं, कि मुझे आप दो ही चीज़ें बता दें कि आप जब किसी को अप्रोच कर रहे हैं जिसके साथ कुछ बुरा हुआ है, क्या वो ऐसी चीज़ें हैं जो आपको नहीं कहनी चाहिए, एटलीस्ट अवॉइड करनी चाहिए,
yeah.
और क्या ऐसी चीज़ें जो आप कह सकते हैं जिससे दूसरा इंसान बेहतर फील करे?
I think advice नहीं देना चाहिए उस वक्त कि do this to feel better, or any sort of a pressure or guilt कि do this because of this or something. So don't do that. I know your intentions. You have
Intentions
good
are good,
intentions,
बिल्कुल.
but we don't need, people who are grieving do not need advice at that time. What you could say is, again, like, be honest. What's coming up for you, and even if it's uncomfortable, just be there. But it's not the quantity of time you're spending. It's like, you know, even if you're there for them. I mean, a friend's father passed away recently, and I said, I was there, and I said, I'm sorry you're going through this. This is painful, and I'm here for you, and I love you. And
That's it.
that's it. I didn't have to say anything, and we just sat. You know, he had tears in his eyes, and मैंने नहीं किया tissue पकड़ाओ ये करो मैं uncomfortable. There was discomfort in me also, because what if I want to cry as well, thinking about my own loss and grief.
Yeah.
And then just breathing.
Yeah.
Breath is such a beautiful gift. We don't use it much.
We don't.
Yeah.
We don't.
Just use it to connect with your body and become in the now. We talked about the now.
Yeah.
So use that thing to work with the discomfort which is arising in us while we are talking, thinking, connecting, engaging, and being there for the other human.
Right. One last.
Please.
So the last thing, which, you know, I don't know if it has anything to do with loss, but I think that loss could have led you to this, but I might be
Right.
wrong. I'm right?
Yes.
Okay. Is your school.
Yeah.
I want you to talk a little about it.
Sure.
You know, just why, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's a huge responsibility on your shoulders. You are a principal of the school that you're running.
Yeah.
You said it's a startup. As of now, it's a small little, you know. Tell me why, what led you to it?
When I started working on the grief with my own therapist for dealing with my mom's loss, of course, a lot of childhood stuff started coming in. And with that came a lot of anger.
Mm.
And the anger was that I wish someone would have told me when I was a kid, and I wish they taught us this in school. I mean, I was such a good student. I was that A grade, teacher's pet, all those kind of things. Why didn't they teach us about real life and dealing with these emotions and all those kind of things?
Yeah.
Because My school gave me a roadmap, and you reach the destination, but it's like, wait, you had the wrong map all your life. I felt cheated. So the idea was that from taking that anger emotion and using that anger into something which is more aligned, I found a new purpose. And that purpose was that to create an environment and create a school where we can change the dialogue and the narrative what we teach our kids, and rather role model what we want, like explore the grays and the goods and the bads of life,
And again,
and
going
celebrate
back to
childhood.
yes, going back to those very important formative
Yes,
years.
yes.
You know, I truly think that everything that I feel today, anytime I, have anxiety or panic or a collapse on or whatever, it has got nothing to do with anything except for something that has triggered it so badly,
Yeah.
So I'm so glad and so thankful to you for doing this actually, because I think, and I know that there are a lot of people now getting into this field. My mother, by the way, did it when we were kids. She used to teach dyslexic children.
Yeah.
She she in my school. She was one of the first teachers to actually stay back, and she would say, all the weak children come to me.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And she would say, no, nobody's failing. Because in her mind, at least this is what she would tell my principal, she would say, ये जो जब आप फेल करते हैं एक बच्चे को,
You kill their self-esteem.
बिल्कुल उसका जो साइकोलॉजिकल इफेक्ट होता है, वो आप सोच ही नहीं सकते वो उस बच्चे को क्या करता है. So for years and years and years, my mother was the only remedial teacher in that school, and one of the first in Karachi, I can say. Yeah.
We want our kids to not have any painful experiences.
Yes.
Magar pain to hogi. What we can do is role model and teach them how to deal with that pain in a healthy manner, rather than taking the pain away. That's not our job as parents.
No.
Even though we would love to कि हमारे बच्चों को भी दर्द ना हो, it's because it hurts so much when you see your kids in pain.
I just, it's like, but you're right. You're absolutely right. The idea is to give them the coping mechanisms to deal with it.
Yeah.
Then, so that as they grow up, whatever loss, because ये तो है, ये तो जिंदगी का दस्तूर है, बिल्कुल, this is life. So last parting note that I would like from you. We've talked about, I think we've covered everything. I want to know that we've talked about how you deal with, people who come in, how they deal with you, how people deal with other people. What the hardest part is, the obstacles, our childhood, traumas, unresolved issues, you name it. Because it's the last, leaving sort of goodbye note, let's end it maybe something at a happy note. Tell me, what is the greatest satisfaction that you get out of the person sitting on the couch in front of you? Tell me an incident, tell me a moment, or you could tell me anything today, right? Anything.
I'll tell you a story. Like when I became a therapist, and it was my mom's 5th death anniversary, and I was in the clinic with a client, first session, and the client comes to me, and he's lost his father 6 months ago, completely helpless and everything. And when we were ending the session, he said, Muzzafar, will I be okay? And it was my mom's death anniversary, so of course, and my eyes kind of like welled up, and I said, I think you will be okay. And that kind of gave me a lot of satisfaction to kind of help others and contribute from something what I have learned, because that's, for me, my lessons or my experience have taught that the sense of contribution comes by receiving help, giving help, receiving and helping. So it's we always thinking about being a giver. Yes, great. Be a great receiver to be able to be a great giver as well.
Right.
So that's very fulfilling. That's very satisfying for me. And sometimes someone who's dealing with grief, I would just say that we might not get it, but this feeling is not final. What you're feeling right now,
it's not final.
It's not final. Feelings keep coming, and let them come. Don't fight back. Don't hold them.
allow it
Allow it to come.
allow it to take over, allow it to, so that you can fully deal with
Okay, I think
it.
feel it to heal it.
Feel it to heal it.
So the question, I'll leave with a question here. What am I not allowing myself to feel right now?
Okay, so let's leave with this
Yes.
question. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that you were here as my first guest. Thank you.
I feel
Really.
very honored. Thank you so much.
Really, thank you so much. And we will leave everybody with this question, which is that what is it that I am not feeling, right?
Allowing myself to feel
Allowing
right now.
myself to feel. So what is it that I'm not allowing myself to feel? Oh, I don't want to ask myself that because I'm feeling so many things. But that's the question, right? That's the hard question that we have to ask ourselves. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can
Thank you
I
for
can I
having me.
shake your hand?
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.